Hey skiers, I'm Jeff from skiessentials.com.
And I'm Bob. How's it going?
Bob and I are here today to talk about the new 2025 Blizzard Anomaly 88. Pretty good timing. Yesterday we put out that article and video, kind of the off-snow trip report or recap from my time in Austria in Mittersill. Talked a lot about Anomaly construction in that video. So if you want to hear their international product manager talk about this ski and you haven't watched that yet, I would encourage you to do that. But we'll go through it in this as well.
Yeah, and just totally interesting to see when that whole section of building an Anomaly.
Isn't that cool?
It's just incredible. Yeah. Like, you don't think that there's that many pieces and parts that go into this thing. And
the even further interesting part, in my opinion, is it's like there's a different person responsible for like each one of those parts. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, I guess I would have assumed that, like assembly line type of thing, but
I would say it's more than assembly line. It's like
you just think that
really
you always think that machines do this.
Yeah, no.
And it's not always the case.
Machines kind of only do they do stuff at the very beginning, and then they do stuff at the very end, and then like everything in between is done by hand.
That's crazy.
It's pretty cool. This is the Anomaly 88. We each have an Anomaly 88 and a Brahma 88 next to us. We talked about this ski a little bit back in January?
Sounds right.
I think it was January. And at that point, we had been on snow, but I think it's fair to say that we hadn't formed a full opinion of them. We did that Anomaly 84 on snow review at Pico.
Yep.
That was really fun. But that felt a little different because the Anomaly 84 to me kind of feels like a new ski. You can say that it replaces the Brahma 82, but they feel different, where this feels like a direct replacement.
And certainly within Anomaly's line, this is the one that is meant to be the direct replacement, with the 84, 94, and the 102 really occupying their own zones.
Right, they're not replacing a width that existed before.
Yeah.
This is the only one that has the same width.
Yeah.
And Brahma has become such an important ski in the past decade that I feel like this Anomaly 88 is really important. And I also think it's interesting because for 2025, we get a lot of new skis in that category. Enforcer 89, Arcade 88, Kendo doesn't change, but it's called the Mantra now.
Yeah.
Am I forgetting anything?
Probably.
Yeah. But there's like a lot of new stuff in that category. So for 2025 being a big year for 88-ish underfoot all mountain skis, I think this is a big one.
Yeah, and it's really kind of the marquee model.
Yeah. Couple things that maybe we'll talk about before we get into construction and shape. In that January article and video, we kind of made assumptions that from at least some perspective it was lesser of a ski. And that I am completely off of that mindset at this point.
You want to know a funny realization I had just now?
Sure.
I went back over the ski test feedback that we got.
Did you compare 2025 feedback on Anomaly to Brahma feedback?
No.
That would be fun.
I went over to our overall impression category, that row, and I looked for a low one, and the lowest I saw was a 7.
For overall impression. 88.
And I said, who's this putting a 7 in there? And it was me. And that was based off of our January time is when I filled out my ski test report. But since then, I had put another half a dozen days or so on it, and my opinion has certainly changed with more experience on it. But I thought that was pretty funny. Just like, who would give this thing a 7? You know,
it was you.
It was me.
I bet the rest were pretty high.
Yeah.
Bet there were some 9s and 10s in there.
Mostly 9s and 10s.
For overall impression. Yeah. And it is a phenomenal ski. Not to get too far ahead, but I'm going to own one, which I'm really excited about because I don't own too many like directional skis in this category. It basically is going to replace like I owned a Declivity 92 Ti that I don't have anymore, so this will be really fun. So anyways, I feel like we've wasted enough time. We'll get right into construction of this ski. It is, I think, just more complicated than Brahma.
Yeah.
Brahma, we had wood core, 2.5 sheets of metal, all just unbroken sheets of metal, full length, full width, except for that half that was just underfoot. This is now, much more involved in its construction, and I'll add in some of the footage from the Austria video as well, just so you can kind of see what we're talking about. And if I mess something up, just refer to that.
Right.
So
the actual factory.
Right, exactly. The guy that designed it and builds it. So what's going on here is talking from basically base up. We've got the base itself. Something that I thought was interesting is Blizzard will always use black in the middle portion of the ski for its superior gliding properties.
Yeah.
So I thought that was, they're sticking to their ways.
I also heard it's less expensive.
I bet it is. Yeah, I don't know that for sure. Also, like, this is really interesting. The base and like the die cut and all that stuff, it's just like taped together before it goes into the press.
Yeah, great.
Like literally taped together, like Scotch tape, just like by hand, and then it goes into the press, and obviously it's glued together, and then the tape comes off. But it's fascinating, just something that you would never know unless you saw it firsthand. So base, and then a full sheet of metal above that. It is 0.4 millimeter thickness in the base, or on that lower sheet. And then we have the True Blend All Mountain wood core. I think we've talked about True Blend a lot at this point. It's not uncommon to what other brands do. What's unique to Blizzard is that it changes per length, is that they're really tweaking the location of the different density woods per length.
Yeah.
So that's huge, and it's actually patented by Blizzard as well. Let's see, this is where I might get thrown off. Above the wood core, we've got basically tip and tail protectors. In the tail, it's rubber. In the tip, it's ABS and a layer of fleece, and then also rubber. And you can see it, if you're looking at the sidewall of the ski, you can see the black, and you can actually kind of feel that it's a little bit
softer,
rubbery and softer. Yeah. And that's basically like absorbing vibrations. It's also absorbing like just impact in the tail. So tails of skis get pretty beat up, even just putting them down in a rack or something like that. So increasing the durability there. Above that, or not above that, but then we get a layer of fiberglass. I think it's just underfoot for binding retention. Above that is the middle section of the flux form metal. So this is basically inspired by Rustler and Shiva skis, but it's very different here. So we have a central strip of metal. That metal is 0.6 millimeter thickness. And then above that is a full sheet of fiberglass. And then you get the metal along the sides, which is also 0.6 millimeter thickness. Basically, they take a sheet of that 0.6 millimeter thickness metal and cut it into its sections. So if you were to add it all up, it is a full width sheet of metal broken into parts.
Did you get the sense that it was 50% in the middle and then 25s, or was it?
That would be my guess.
Yeah.
I don't remember actually like talking about those percentages, but it's pretty interesting. And that's about it for construction. And I want to just get straight into flex and weight. I think like in that an introductory or in the video that we did in January, we talked a little bit about this, but this Anomaly 88 is actually a little bit stiffer longitudinally than Brahma 88. At least hand flexing it, it feels that way to me.
Yeah, this thing, I mean, it's pretty darn stiff.
Yeah.
And the Brahma has just a little bit more bend to it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
which
it's
is interesting.
Interesting to feel. You always just assume that a Brahma is the stiffest ski
ever.
Yeah. And it does feel that way. Just, when we talk about the shape, it'll kind of come to a bit more clear as to why it feels that way.
Yeah. And we've got a 183 Brahma here and a 182 Anomaly 88, so very, very close. Brahma comes in at 2,050 grams, and Anomaly comes in at, call it 2,120.
Yeah.
So we're actually a little heavier as well, which is interesting. You know, I feel like the theme with a lot of ski manufacturers is try and go lighter, but similar to Nordica, they're unapologetically just making the ski that they want to make. And
Right.
I don't think weight's like a big factor there.
And not when you're talking about 20 or 30 grams. I mean, it does
Yeah.
matter, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's not 100.
Yeah. Now, I don't think that tells the full story. By breaking that top sheet of metal into the flux form sections, they are, I don't want to say reducing torsional stiffness, but they're making the ski a little bit more compliant and less harsh.
Yeah.
And that is by design. That is something that they talked about at the factory when we kind of saw it firsthand in Mittersill. So if you're wondering why the change to that flux form metal, that's basically it. And it's like, the simplest way to describe it is probably just like making the sweet spot bigger. That's
Yeah.
how it feels to me. So that's all I got. We're doing this backwards. Bob, do you want to talk about shape?
Yeah, I mean, it was
Do you want
great
this thing?
to defer to you for the,
I'll take the Brahma. So
Yeah,
we can
sure.
Compare.
you know, to someone that's actually seen the ski being built. I think that goes.
Really cool.
It's better than just reading a catalog.
It's
and
really
talking
cool.
about it.
There are like all those metal pieces are placed in by hand before it goes into the press, and like, you know, you might think like, well, how do they get those wings or like the side metal into the right spot? And they have like little spacer things. It's like really cool to watch.
Like a tile spacer.
Exactly. Yeah. Where like they put it in and then like slide the little spacer thing in, make sure it's in the right spot, and then go.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
That is nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's fair to say that the Anomaly, we talked about it with the construction, is a little bit stiffer, a little bit heavier, and it's a little bit more rockered. And when we talk about the additional rocker and the tips and tails, that's when you start to see kind of the personality change just ever so slightly.
Yeah.
We can kind of put these up here because it does, you can kind of tell, especially kind of when you pinch where the rocker starts. It's a little bit lower here on the Anomaly than in the Brahma. So just a slight more tip rocker profile in the Anomaly, but the tail is where we start to see a little bit more of a difference.
Yeah.
So the rocker on my skis starts down here.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's still low. It's not like we're putting in
No, there's not a ton of splay.
Rustler-like splay in these skis, but it certainly makes a big difference in terms of the release phase of the turn and the playfulness of it. It just makes it more agile, easier to make shorter to medium swing turns. That Brahma was always pretty locked in.
Yeah.
You know, and that was a highlight for sure. But the fact that they added this tail rocker in to make it more amenable to different shapes and styles of turns increases the versatility in my mind.
Just ups the forgiveness, which is huge. Because Brahma 88 was never really a ski that you used the word forgiveness with.
Nope.
If you did, you were talking about how little it had.
Yeah.
So I think that's cool.
And then the measurements remain pretty darn close. This new Anomaly is about a 0.5 mil to 1 millimeter narrower in the tips and tails. Same width underfoot. So you're adding 0.5 meter to the turn radius in the Anomaly. I think you have a 17.5 there.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, and this is an 18. So slightly longer, just a slightly straighter overall shape to it.
Yeah.
So making that just slightly less turny and less grabby. So just easier to kind of swish.
Easier to manipulate.
Yeah.
Far easier to manipulate. Do you want to get right into performance?
Yeah, and I think that, yeah, I do.
So I think we should start with on-piste.
Yep.
I'm going to let you start. Do you want to know why?
Okay.
You do want to know why?
Yeah, I do.
We posted that video earlier this week, and somebody commented and said it was the best carves they've ever seen you make.
Probably the best carves I've felt making. I think I replied like, you know, sometimes sometimes you just feel better out there.
Yeah.
Like whether it's you or what.
Yep.
You know, you just wake up feeling good sometimes. But you can also give some credit to the ski.
For sure.
So I'm going to do that. I'm going to give credit to the Anomaly here for sure, as kind of instilling confidence and making the process of carving a turn on a groomer that much easier and that much more accessible. So slightly straighter in the tip, slightly more rocker, easier to initiate. That thing pulled you right in, which was wonderful, but didn't really equate to other things. So balancing the turn initiation phase on the Anomaly with the power makes a lot of sense. And then, you know, midfoot, when you add in all those ingredients, those multiple sheets of metal, it just feels extremely solid underfoot. You know, no wavering whatsoever.
No, and like I feel like that's really important. And because Brahma 88 always had the unwavering, just like limitless stability and power. And if you're worried that Anomaly 88 has lost any of that, you can rest assured that it is just as much ski as the Brahma. Like, don't be concerned whatsoever.
No, and I actually liked this additional tail rocker
100%
in a groomer and carving format.
I agree 100%.
I like how this pre-curve interacts with the snow and allows you to really kind of, I don't want to say ride your tails, but feel your tails as they kind of exit the turn, and you can really play around with manipulating that edge angle easier and finish your turns at a different rate. And I think that's what I felt specifically in those turns, and that short clip that we had was that I was having an easier time finishing my turns more across the hill. So even though it's a slightly longer turn radius, the rocker profile allows you to kind of keep that bend in the ski.
I agree 100%. So, and were you skiing the 182 predominantly?
Yeah, I don't think I would go longer than this.
I don't think you need to, because you were a 183 skier over here too, right?
I was, yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's, and like, I've skied both the 176 and the 182. I was always more of a 177 skier in the Brahma 88. I definitely prefer the 176. That's the length that I'm going to get for myself, but it was really nice to ski both. But yeah, I agree 100%. It's like, it just feels more intuitive and easier to ski while still achieving like the power that ski does. And I also agree that like if you just looked at the figure for turn radius, you might expect the opposite, but the way that they kind of just tweaked the shape and the overall feel, 100% it comes across the fall line like way easy, like way more easily. It's pretty cool. Like if you told me, if you covered up the top sheet of the ski and didn't tell me anything about it and told me that it had a 16-meter turn radius, I would believe you.
Right.
You know, because it feels that responsive and that fun. And yeah, I mean, it carves phenomenally. That's why there's a big orange carving path on the actual top sheet of the ski. But now it does other stuff too.
Yeah.
Which is really cool, because this Brahma didn't really like doing other stuff.
You had to have a skill set and a strong set of legs.
Yeah, exactly.
In order to get it to do the other stuff.
Yeah, and there's always people that don't like when we say that, and they're like, well, I can do everything on it just fine. I'm like, that's great. Like, you probably also could do everything on a 210 straight ski. Like, compared to that, it's pretty user-friendly. But among the whole collection of skis in the world now, it was always a bit much. So I just like, as far as an on-piste all-mountain ski goes, it is just as powerful and it's just more dynamic.
And that's just riding the radius. You know, like I feel like these have a lot more capabilities in that short to medium radius as well, because they're more mobile and agile. So where I like to live on the side of the trail too, this is an upgrade for me over Brahma. It's just easier to make those shorter swing turns.
I mean, they kind of nailed it. And like, I mean, a lot of the new around 88 skis are really good. I don't think we haven't done like a a dedicated Enforcer 89 review yet, and that's going to be an interesting conversation. Maybe at the end of this video we can talk about some comparisons, but it's hard to, I don't know, we don't give awards, but if we did give awards, Anomaly 88 would at least be nominated.
Yeah, and you know, I feel pretty comfortable making bold statements like that as well. It's about this ski.
It's really, really good.
Yeah.
I particularly am fond of both the 84 and the 88. I just think they crushed it with those two skis. Not to take anything away from 94 and 102. I think they have their application, they have their merits, but yeah, especially this 88.
Yeah.
It's tremendous. We don't have much footage of skiing at Off-Piste, but what are your thoughts about Off-Piste?
You were away. I don't know if you were in Utah for something, but Chris, our photographer, and I went up for a day on these, and he took some pictures. And so that was a day that we could do a little bit off-piste stuff.
Yep.
Like upper hayride, you know, kind of half moguls, half groomed, pretty steep. And there's a picture that Chris got of me making a turn, and you can actually see like the front of the ski bending and coming out of the snow. And I would, if I didn't know what ski I was on, I would think I was on a Rustler.
Yeah.
So kind of another bold statement is when they moved Rustler 9 to 96 and left a gap, because it used to be 94, 92.
Yep.
There's a gap in Rustler, and we've kind of talked about, well, they need a Rustler 8 now.
Yeah.
And this kind of fits that bill. If you think about, and I've kind of jokingly called it a Brustler, like it's a Brahma Rustler.
Sure, I like that.
Mix.
Brustler. Do you think Blizzard really missed an opportunity to call it the Brustler?
The Brustler. But it does. I mean, it has that capability in the shovel and that slight more rocker in the tail.
It's all that rocker.
With the on-piste, you know, construction and grip.
Yeah.
So I felt totally comfortable in softer snow, bumps, trees. I mean, I skied a bunch of bumps. We got pictures to prove it.
Maybe I'll put some pictures.
Put some pictures in there.
Yeah.
And I thought this was a wonderful mogul ski, whereas I would avoid. And you know me, I'm not one to avoid moguls.
No, that's I don't ever hear you say that.
But Anomaly made them a lot more fun than outgoing Brahma for sure. So the tail rocker, that made the biggest difference to me. Was
the tail rocker?
The tail rocker.
Yeah.
You know,
the way it interacts with the bump behind you.
Yeah, that thing really just kind of, it fights you pushing on the tails.
Yeah, like augured you.
Yeah, this one goes in just fine. So yeah, I definitely think that there's that narrower Rustler application here.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's cool. I mean, they do feel different.
Yeah.
Like, if there was a Rustler 8, it would almost feel more like a park ski, but I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like, it has similar capabilities. It does it differently, I'd say.
Well, even as Rustler decreases in number, it gets more on-piste oriented.
True.
So, like, this is an exaggerated.
It would just be, it's an exaggerated jump. Yeah. A great test for me was skiing them in Austria. If you watched the On Snow video, I'm pretty sure it's the ski. It's the ski I started on, and the visibility was horrid, which was funny. I think I mentioned this to you, but like, you know, you always ski, not always, but if it's like freezing fog or freezing rain, which like we ski in a lot.
Kind of a lot, yeah.
Like you do your paper towel and your hand technique.
Yep.
Our first run in Austria, it was freezing fog. People were panicking. And I was like, no, guys, it's fine. Just like take your hand out and like melt the ice on your goggle and wipe it off and then keep skiing. And they all thought I was crazy, which I thought was like a really funny situation and kind of just like, I don't know.
You listen to the person from Vermont when it comes to freezing fog as opposed to the people from Utah or Colorado.
Totally. I was like, this is fine.
Yeah.
But no, the visibility was really bad. Like you couldn't really see what you were skiing on. You know, like you could see the ground, but you couldn't pick up like variations in the snow surface. And in that terrain, in conditions like that, on a Brahma, I would have been miserable.
Yeah.
Like, I would have just been worried that I was going to hurt myself the whole time. And Anomaly 88, it had like a pretty aggressive tune on it too. I think it was straight out of the tune room at the factory and maybe didn't have any detuning done to it. But even with like a really aggressive tune, the ski was just more willing to get down the mountain without fighting me. And that was eye-opening to me and like kind of just a great indicator of the increased forgiveness and compliance that they've given it when you're not just railing turns on a groomer.
Yeah.
Which is still all I want to do on it, personally, is carve turns on a groomer.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of funny, like we talk all about like it's increased performance everywhere else, but it's not that I don't care, but I'm not going to utilize it that much. I'm more psyched about how much better I think it feels as a carving ski.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to race on it.
I'm impressed that it could do that, and then it can also
Bumps
and woods.
Yeah. I mean, I think you can probably understand where I'm coming from. Like, when I go off-piste skiing, I generally want something over 100.
Yeah.
You know, and like I go like sideways more than you do. You're better at going straight than me. What else do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about some comparisons?
Sure. You had mentioned the Mantra 88.
Do you think Enforcer 89 is the closest comparison?
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to kind of get that side-by-side look at the tail rocker, because that has been a story with those new Enforcers.
Yeah. The shape is more similar than ever before.
I mean, when you look down this ski, like, that looks like an Enforcer 89 to me.
I know.
Like, it's very, very similar.
Yeah.
Kind of from tip to tail. So I think that that's going to be a very, very obvious and close comparison, and both feel extremely solid and underfoot, and just a great carving ski.
Yeah, I feel like Anomaly is probably a little bit more precise. It kind of feels like it might be like in between Enforcer and Mantra 88, Kendo.
Yeah, I think that Kendo, it's going to take a while.
It's going to take years.
The Mantra 88, I always thought was more comparable to Brahma.
Right. That's kind of what I mean.
Yeah.
They've shifted a little bit away from the precision. Arcade 88 also feels like a pretty good comparison. The shapes are different, but they achieve similar things.
It's just that shorter arc of the arcade makes it
kind of puts it in a slightly different category.
A little different, I think.
Yeah.
But they both carve extremely well.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like you can ski that ski off-piste similarly that you can ski this off-piste, where this and Mantra or Kendo, you could do it, but it wasn't as fun.
Yeah. Yeah, and then there's some other lighter weight options, you know, like a Maverick.
Maverick 88.
Yeah, or, you know, that's kind of a lighter version with metal.
Yeah.
That doesn't quite compare in terms of overall stability.
Doesn't have the stability and vibration damping, no. But I could see Maverick arguably being a better choice for a lighter skier who doesn't ski fast.
Yep.
Like, you know, that's where you're benefiting from a ski like the Anomaly, is speed and skier size.
Yep.
And just aggressiveness.
Yeah.
So, yeah. If there was a declivity 88 Ti, I feel like that would be very similar.
I mean, you could
Less
throw
metal in those
you can
skis,
throw that
but
92 in there, but
yeah,
it's a little different.
it does. It feels a little different, but like the rocker profile and how they feel on snow feels pretty similar to me.
Stance 90?
Yeah, I mean, if there was more metal in it, maybe.
Yep.
Similar, but way more power.
Yeah.
In Anomaly.
I mean, Stance went a little lighter in the wood.
Right.
I think that's taking it a little farther from this.
Yeah. Why did Solomon and Armada trade wood?
Maybe, I don't know.
Did they have X amount of wood? They were like, let's just trade.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know why these people do these things.
I think we're getting off track here. So Anomaly 88, it truly is fantastic. Objectively, it is a phenomenal ski.
What binding are you going to put on yours? You thought about it?
Yeah, I'm gonna I'm gonna. Yeah, I'm gonna find an orange FKS.
You're not going to take it off of your mirror's core and put it on here?
That's why I was covering my eyes and
Yeah.
feeling shameful, because I might.
I
But I don't want to, because it looks so good on the mirror's core, so I think I'm just going to scour the internet.
Yeah, try to find one.
Either that or a black pivot.
Yeah. But definitely something in the pivot family.
I think so. Don't you feel like that's the move?
Yeah.
I feel like it's going to enhance everything that I like about it more than the Brahma 88. I feel like a binding like the pivot will enhance.
I've been very happy with my Solomon's drives.
Yeah,
I
understand.
I
just like, I don't weigh that much.
Yeah.
And like the pivot has the short
Yeah.
drill pattern and more elastic travel. And I think we've proven that for me, it makes a ski bend more.
Yeah.
If you're wondering how we proved that, it involves me breaking skis.
Bending.
Sure. So, do you have anything else?
I don't think so. Just happy to see like this real firsthand knowledge that you have from the construction, from the factory, from the literal person that builds the literal ski. I think that's
Totally.
It's about as valuable as it gets.
It was really
like
cool.
And
yeah.
That's kind of why we're going on and on about it.
Yeah. Well, and like, it's also really cool firsthand to see how proud the people who designed it and built it are.
Yeah.
Like, of course, like I can ski it and tell you what I think of it and tell you if I think it's a good ski or not. But there's definitely something about like talking to its people.
Yes.
And just seeing their eyes light up. And like they're all really good skiers themselves.
Yeah.
And like if they're that excited about it, then it just like kind of solidifies my opinion that they've really got something going here.
Yeah, I think that's great.
I think it's going to be tremendously popular.
I think so too. I don't think that anyone who's nervous about the Brahma going away should be nervous.
No. And the color's sweet.
Yeah.
And now you can own an Anomaly 88 and a Rustler 10 and be like the best looking person on the mountain. I like the black and orange colorway if you didn't pick up on that.
Got it.
Yeah. So that's it. Let us know if you have any Anomaly 88 questions. We will do 94 and 102 reviews as well. I don't know when. It'd be fun to save one of them for On Snow, early season, something like that.
Yeah.
So keep an eye out for that. Let us know if you have any questions, and we will talk to you soon.
Bye.